Hey there, it is Tomster on behalf of Indie Structural Productions, and there's cables all over the place. I just quickly set this up. I really shouldn't have filmed this video now because I really don't have time for it, but I can't contain myself. What arrived in the mail today is the Matt Heafy custom Fishmans, and I am going to be putting these in this guitar. So this is part 2 of, upgrading this instrument. Later on, much later on, we're gonna maybe have a look at replacing tuners or bridge saddles, something like that. But that's not now. What we're gonna be looking at today is just gonna be replacing pickups in a new guitar. New pickups in a new guitar, or just new pickups in a guitar. And switching from just normal passive pickups to active pickups, and in this case, how to install Fishmans. So we're gonna have a look at that. But in order for us to have a good comparison on what this guitar sounds like now in its current state, we need to do a little demo of sorts. I am using the PRS plugged into my brand new Scarlett audio interface, going into Logic, and as my audio plugin of choice, I am using the Neural DSP Archetype Nolly with some presets that I've made. So here we go. I apologize beforehand already. Let's see how this goes. Alright, well that was some very shoddy and weird playing on my behalf, but let's get some new pickups in there and run this through some tests. And look at how we're going to put the pickups in anyways. Alrighty, so next step is removing the old pickups. Essentially what I've done now is I've removed the knobs, taken the strings sort of off. I'm going to be using the same strings, so there's really no point in me putting in new ones because they're still fairly new themselves. Just having a quick look at how everything has been put together. It's kind of a shame taking apart such a nice wiring job, but gotta do what you gotta do. I'm gonna be putting in pretty much all these electronics into another project, so I'm gonna maintain them in a very good order. And something that really helps is also taking pictures. I don't always do this, but it's a nice way to kind of keep track of everything. We're essentially gonna replace pretty much everything. Now, fortunately, the Fishmans are quick connect stuff, so we can just pull all the wiring through into the pickup cavities and then put the pickups in last. So that's already something that makes things nicer. The thing that is gonna take a little bit of working out is where to place the battery. Because these are active pickups, they do require a 9-volt battery, and there is just enough room in here to fit this. So that's gonna be a little bit of a hassle. Let us remove the jack. Now, usually, even if I wouldn't have an immediate use for all of these electronics, I will always hold on to them as spare parts, because if they're not damaged, and if they're fairly good quality, which these are, then what is the point of kind of throwing them all away? A little bit of stuff that we need to desolder in order to pull stuff through. Do need to figure out which is which. So there's a green and a red wire. I need to figure out which one is the bridge and which one is the neck pickup and put that accordingly. Because I'm so used to the sort of toggle switch, the blade switches always kind of annoy me in a way. So the green pickup goes there, red pickup goes there, and volume pot goes there. Make sure that nothing gets scratched. Now I had a quick look ahead at the wiring diagram that came with the pickups, and these are by far the most extensive wiring diagrams I've seen from Fishman. It gives a good wide selection on options that you have. So there's one with 2 push-pulls, volume and tone. Then there's 2 push-pulls and a master volume. Then there are 2 push-pulls, another but a different kind of version, I guess. And then it's sort of Les Paul wiring, which is like the matte wiring of having tones for both, volumes for both. But we're going to be using just a volume and a tone and 2 push-pulls to get 3 different voicings that this pickup has. I'll remove these and we'll come back in just a second. Now I've removed the pickups. While we can solder everything outside of the cavities, these quick connects are rather large, so they won't fit through the entire way. So let's just pull all the wiring through into the main cavity and do what we can with a wiring loom, and then the rest. Just make sure that, okay, so it's going to be on this side. Make sure that I have enough there. Then it is the blue and green, right? Then the black and the red for the bridge. I kind of like the fact that Fishman use different colors for the different pickups, because it does make things easier when you're inside the cavity. So you know which wires are for the bridge and which are for the neck, instead of having just the same colors over and over again. There we go. Now that on the top side is pretty much done, and we can move on to trying to fit everything in here. Now this is way too much wire to be in this cavity, so we are going to trim those down quite a bit, but first let us figure out what goes where. So I have a wiring loom, and I think that is going to be the place where we start. So let me show you what I mean. So essentially the point of a wiring loom is to pretty much wire everything up outside of the control cavity, so that then you can just plonk everything in. So that's what we have here. We have the master volume and the master tone push-pull switches. And I'm going to be following along to the diagram provided by Fishman. So first things first, let us get our solder points in order. Work on that a little bit. So for the tone, we need the middle 2 pins on the switch part, and the lower 2 pins like so. Then on the pot, we need the middle pin and the furthest out. Now, I am not that fluent in electronics, so I won't be able to tell you which is hot, live, stuff like that, because I don't ever remember or know, for that matter. There. Now, be sure not to put too much solder on your solder points, but also not to hold your soldering iron too long in place, so that you don't overheat any elements. Now, I am gonna create some ground points on the volume here. That's probably gonna be for the pickups, and I'm gonna do a separate one for the bridge ground. This one, the tone is going to get a ground point there for the cap, and then also ground point there for the middle pins. Actually, let's put one on the top for the jack ground. So output ground there. I like to keep separate ground points for everything, just so that I don't have a massive clump of solder somewhere. Usually I'll start off with the capacitor if there is one in the wiring. So one leg goes through here. I usually do a little tug to make sure that it is held in place properly. There. Good. Then the other portion of it, the other leg, go here. Little tug, yep. Good connection. Right. Then for here, I want the middle 2 pins on the switch to run to ground as well, and that we're going to put on the side of the pot here. Like so. There. Great. Now that is the preliminary stuff on the pot, or on the tone pot, done. We're going to do the same thing for the middle ground here. Middle switch ground. And this is very handy to just use the leftover leg from a cap. Works ideally just to kind of connect stuff like this. Now, I'm sure that online you'll find a lot more if you're interested in electronics, wiring and stuff like that. I'm sure you'll be able to find some more, you know, scientific wording for everything that I do here, but for just your average run-of-the-mill upgrading work, my roundabout ways of explaining things probably will be more than enough. Right, so now we have all the solder points in place. We should also do the same for the the input jack, or output jack I should say. And for this we have the ring, then we have the sleeve, and then we have the tip. So the tip, or hot or live, or whatever you want to call it, that will go to the volume. The sleeve, which is our ground point, will go to ground, and then the ring will be the negative of the battery pack to provide power for the active pickups. So again, just pre-solder these points, and we could already at this point run the ground and the live to the 2 required pots. For my ground, I am going to use black wire, and for every wire that you're going to be soldering, you want to first remove the sleeve and give it a little bit of a twist just to bundle that wire together. Then take your solder, a little bit on the tip of your soldering iron, and then your wire in between the solder and your soldering iron, just to get it pre-soldered like this. Now this will make, when I first learned this tiny little trick, which is just, you know, the way you do wiring, but it took me long to actually realize this. Once you do this, everything becomes so much quicker to do, because you're not having to faff about with things not getting stuck in place correctly. This will be the ground, so that will go to the sleeve, which is this one. Like so. So now it's pointing pretty much directly to the side, which is not ideal. it's not going to really fit anywhere, so I just usually twist it around to follow the direction that it's going to be going in. This cavity is fairly small, so already at this point I could check what length I would need by passing this jack through, and then my tone pot is going to be here, which is where the ground is going to go. So I only need about that much wire. Clip, and repeat the same process of taking the sleeve, twist, and here's a note that if you're going to be doing some wiring on top of a finished instrument, having some way to protect your finish is going to be very helpful. So, again, some solder onto the tip, and there we have it. Now I'm going to repeat the same process with the live, and I am going to clip all these wires to a better size, and I'll be back in a sec. Now I have my wiring loom set up so that the jack is wired up and the pots have been pre-soldered. So now it's time to start putting the pickups in their right places. And to do that, I first have the neck pickup, which is going to be the white and the red, and then the blue and the green. So I'm going to start with putting the split coil options where they need to be. The blue goes to the volume, which is going to be about there. Then the green is going to go to the tone. Now I realize I'm leaving my wires fairly long, but that's fine. I have some zip ties to kind of fix that issue when it's time to clean everything up. And it's nice to be doing this kind of outside the cavity, especially when the control cavity in this case is fairly tight of a squeeze. This gives me a little bit more room to work on things. So pre-soldering the wires and making sure that I was going in the right places. So blue goes to the lower left of the push-pull switch on the volume, and the green goes to the lower left of the push-pull switch, push-pull switch on the tone, like so. Then the bridge. So the bridge is going to be similar in that the yellow goes to the volume, and then the orange goes to the tone. Now another thing you don't want to do, which at first may seem obvious, or you may want to do, especially if you haven't done wiring a lot before, is do not blow on your joints, because that might impart some moisture into the solder, which is far from ideal. So just let it cool down by itself, and then with a little bit of a tug, make sure you got a good connection. Solder will cool down quick. You don't need to blow on it to make it go quicker. It's good to be very aware of your wires so that you don't do this, which I just did. I'm crossing wires over. So I'm gonna move that to go alongside the blue. It just makes things that much cleaner when we don't have wires crossing over one another or underneath one another. So now that I could technically clump these two together, could have even used some heat shrink to make it look nicer. I'm wondering whether I should actually do that. I could do that. Let us impart some heat shrink. I highly doubt that I'm going to be taking this apart anytime soon, at least. So we know that the blue and the yellow go there. This will just help tidy things up. Using the side of my soldering iron. You could technically do this with a lighter, but I don't have one. So, or heat gun, but that might accidentally impart some heat onto the guitar body, which is something I don't want to do. So we have the blue going here and the yellow going here. Now it's already a lot cleaner and easier for me to clean up some more with zip ties. Let's do the same for this. We'll have to change color because I don't have any more of that. What you can do as well is just twist the wires around like that. Yeah, so if you don't have heat shrink, you can just twist the wires up like they've done here with the battery wires. I need to put in new solder. Good rule of thumb is that if your solder is nice and shiny, then that usually entails a much better joint than one that is almost gray. Little tug, making sure all my connections are good. They're good. All right. So now the main pickup wires. I have the neck, which will have the white going into the switch and the bare going into the ground point. Then I have the red out of both pickups and the red of the battery pack joined together. I don't need these wires to be specifically too long. I know that this is going to be over here, so my red wire needs to go about that long. And then my other red wire will be just about the same length. I am probably going to deal with them last, but I'm just going to twist them around at this point just to keep them kind of in order. The pickup wires themselves are rather bulky, but they have a rather thick outside plastic. They need to cut open, and inside there is going to be the ground, so the bare wire, and then a white wire inside, which is going to go to the switch. So I only need this to be about, let's say, that long, but my volume pot is going to be over here. My switch is over here, so I need that bare wire to go all the way to the ground point here. So we might actually rather leave these until we put the pots in. What wire am I missing? Yes, of course. The live going from the tone to the volume, and then from the volume to the switch. Now, maintaining with a similar color scheme, I am probably going to put white wire going from here to there. I'll combine the wires and then we'll start putting everything together inside the cavity. Now I have my switch here and my volume pot here, and those are the two different points that I need things to go to. So we're going to take the neck pickup first, and I need the bare wire to come all the way here. So in order to do that, I can't just use the, I'm not really sure what these are called, but I can't just pull off the sleeve like normal because I might damage the ground wire inside. So instead, what I need to do is use a scalpel to score around like this, and then pull off the sleeve this way, like so. And now you can see the ground wire is twisted around the inner live wire that we need to go to the switch. So separate the two like this. Let's just twist the ground around like so. Now the issue with having such a long piece of ground or bare wire is that it might hit something and might cause a short. Now we don't want to do that, so first let's check that the length is okay. Yep, it will reach just fine. So we're gonna put some heat shrink over on top of this just to protect it from getting bumped into it. Like this will be more than just fine. Slide that over on top. just as easily as that. The bare wire itself is protected. Pull the sleeve off of this. I'm not going to pre-solder anything just yet. I'm going to do the same deal with this as well. So again, just carefully, the scalpel blade score the outside, a little bit of a twist to release it, pull it off, separate the two wires. Twist, 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 and then another piece of heat shrink. Slide that over on top. Now we have both of the pickup ground wires. We have them going to the same place. And when you have something like that, it's usually good practice to just twist those two wires around like so, and then pre-solder. Now this is going to be the same sort of thing that we're going to do for the battery wire in just a sec. The battery positive. Yep, let's get the ground in place like so. Now I will need to cheat because I can't remember which way it went. Fortunately, I took a picture. So we have the red one was the bridge, which will go here, and our bridge is the black one. Right. So let's pre-solder the wires. So to here, and this goes to here. Right. So now I've done a little bit of cleanup already for some things, but now it's time to try and put the battery in place. Now, there's not much room for it, so what I've done is I've cut a bit of foam and created this little pocket for it, but I think I might need to remove some excess material. And this foam has no other purpose except for the fact that it just restricts it from jangling around inside the control cavity. How does it fit? It fits like that. I also don't want it to be bumping into too many walls. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So essentially, the battery is gonna go in here, like so, and these wires are gonna combine. So I'm gonna cut them. Great. Now I'm gonna unplug the battery because it's not good practice to be wiring up battery leads when the battery is attached. So once again, remove the sleeve, and now we're gonna twist all these wires together, all these red wires. So that's the two from the pickups, the one from the battery, and we're gonna solder all of these together. There. Now, to make sure that they don't touch any walls or touch any other exposed wires, if there were any, or any ground points, we're just going to seal that off with some heat shrink just to keep them protected. Make sure that the battery itself doesn't short circuit, like so. And this heat shrink comes with the little box of stuff that comes with the Fishman pickups. Right, so I'm gonna get the battery in place, and then I'm gonna try and zip tie everything together. There's not much space, but at least nothing's gonna clatter around, which is also nice. And zip tie these together so they don't move about, and a bit easier to work with. And the part that you didn't see is I already put the bridge ground wire in place to a ground point on one of the pots. You've seen me do the similar process already on another place. Now, ideally, you would only start zip tying everything together and cleaning everything up once you've tested that things work. So that is what we're going to be doing next. So let me just clear up some stuff here. Rule number somethingth of wiring: never ever put the back cover on before you've tested that the electronics actually work. It's quite infuriating to realize that something doesn't work and then have to take everything apart all over again. The bridge pickup, and looking at it from this side so I know what I'm doing, I have the white and red going here and the blue and green going here. I'm not gonna screw the pickup completely in, but just enough so that it doesn't pop out. The red is the outermost. I'm sorry, you didn't see almost any of that now, did you? And then it is orange and yellow. So they go like so. Plug that in place. A couple of screws to keep it in place. And then I'm going to switch the battery on my camera because it seems like that is running out. Time for a quick test to make sure that everything works. So plugging in my little micro terror here. Right, I'll turn up the volume so I can hear it a bit better. Good. So that's the bridge. Both pickups. Neck. Yep. Yep, there's a change. There's a change there as well. The strings are rubbing up against things. And then check this. Yep, definite change. And there's a change in volume there as well. So essentially what this should be doing now is, so volume, pull for voice 3, so single coil, and tone, pull for voice 2, which will be the quote-unquote passive sound. And then as it is, without anything pulled up or pushed, or anything pulled up, it is the modern active pickup. Great. I'm going to put everything back together, and then let's have a listen to the change. Everything's pretty much a tight squeeze in there, but nothing's going to rattle around, that's for sure. All right, now that we have the pickups installed, it's time to hear what they sound like in comparison to the previous ones. So here we go. Well, they're definitely higher output, so let's go ahead and attempt to play the things I played before. So let's try the passive mode, I believe. So the voice 2. I guess the single coil, which is definitely a lot noisier. There is a good bit of noise there, but we'll see. Now, there's tons more that I just didn't really go through. I'm thinking that I might do like a proper demo of all the tones to kind of run through, well, everything. And I don't know when this video comes out, but probably later on. So here's the first part, and then once that video comes out, I will put a little card here for you to click to go to the full demo of the MKH pickups. I'm very pleased. I mean, come on, look at that. They look gorgeous. And yeah, can't wait to kind of play with them a little bit more. For now, thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit like, comment down below, smash that bell because it does actually help out quite a lot. Subscribe to see more, and I'm gonna keep on playing. All right, see ya.